So I will tell about the practical experience of what I was doing mainly, and I will base very much on my experience. And I suggest that we can also discuss some of the things during my talk. Yes. So if you have any questions about these specific things, then we can talk a little bit, stop on some subject, because it's very much about technical solutions, specific technical solutions, and I must stress that I will show you what works. It's not just in general, but what works. What I call pure protein, čistý protein. Yeah? Okay. So closing the water loop. This is me. This is I. The Eco Solutions Forge is the Kuzna Ecoration. This is the team that I started in Ukraine. This is a team of people who are doing something with sustainable solution, and mainly we are working with water. And the spirit is very much blacksmith spirit. The blacksmith spirit is come and do something. So this is me as blacksmith, so you can have my picture, right? So this is me, and but actually about concerning the water, it looks more or less like this. This is basically how you can find me during the work. So this is working with different kind of sewage water. So it's sometimes dirty work, but someone has to do it, yeah. And this is how things actually happening. So. And concerning permaculture, because I have a long story of permaculture. I was brought into permaculture very long time ago in 1993, and actually was traveling quite much. And I lived in Britain and worked in Britain, and this is first time where I basically got very much interested in permaculture. Then the fate brought me to Russia, and I met Bill Mollison, the founder of permaculture, and traveled with him, and then I translated. So basically all the books, what you have in Russian now, I translated the books of permaculture. That was my job. So this is something. But permaculture is it's a very complicated thing when you bring it to people. I mean, because I work in the mainstream world. We are here, I come here, and I see all kind of very good people here gathered to know this building. But from the outside look, we are very much alternative. It's not the mainstream society, really. And the thing about mainstream society, if you come with a permaculture to the mainstream and with all these great things like water loops, they don't really understand it. So what I choose, this is my way. I come to I bring permaculture. And I come through toilet. This is my slogan. Okay, slogan. So cloaca, you know what is cloaca? It's a toilet. Cloaca maxima. This is Roman. In Roman or ancient Rome, they had cloacas, right? Cloaca maxima. So per astra ad astra. This is per cloaca through toilet to permaculture. This is how I enter the system. So I come as a water, as a sewage, wastewater treatment. This is my profession as ecologist, wastewater treatment specialist, because everybody needs it actually, and the water. But when I'm there, when I'm working with the real systems, I start to do permaculture, because this is the secret way. And this is the experience. So you sometimes, in order to get people through something, you don't need to expose them directly. Go through toilets, go through other things. So, and I will talk about this more later. So this is a problem with, so this is the existing system. We have drinking water, good materials, food, nutrition, liquid waste, solid waste. Linear flows. And this is what we need to get the cycles. The cycles in everything in nature runs in cycles. You understand? Коло обіги, цикли, коло. Вода, поживні речовини, nutrients. This is an ecosystem. Ecosystem is nothing else, because ecosystem is the central part of ecology. as a science, ecosystema. It's nothing else but kolobik, rečovinic. So in permaculture, permaculture is basically it's constructive ecology. We construct ecosystems. What we do. So what we first need to do is reconstructing these cycles. So, and the water cycle, it's the most important of all the cycles because many nutrient cycles, because water is also transport. So many nutrients is also transported by water. So we have to start from water cycle and construct it properly. And the problem with water in the real world, it's dealt separately. Someone is doing with water supply, vodný engineer, vodné обеспечение. The other people doing the sewage, wastewater, canalization, водоотведение. It's in Ukrainian and Russian vodоотведение it's called, so it's something, vodоотведение. You get rid of it. It's the same word is even telling about this. The rainwater is basically considered as waste. It's a problem. Because you have to protect from the rain with the roof, you have to have the gutters to get away the rainwater. When you have too much rain, it's a problem. So it is very much separated. Water, but it's water. Water is general. We have water, and coming back from permaculture, because permaculture is taking things as whole. When we take everything, we grab everything, this is permaculture. And it's sometimes difficult because things fall apart, but we try at least to grab everything and hold it all together. This is real permaculture. So take all the water and approach this to this subject. So we take all the water at the whole. So the vision of how it should be, the water cycle. So this is the dream. Communism, right? So this is how we should at some point have the system in the future. If we survive, of course. Yeah? So water and nutrient cycles, which give us the opportunity to continue forever. Because without cycles, everything will stop, and we stop too. So we need to do the cycle. And okay, so this is the dream. Now is reality. Reality is different from the dream, especially now. And especially if you go to some places which are like Ukraine, for instance. Ukraine, you know Ukraine? Ukraina. I'm from Zakarpattia. This is very close to Slovakia, and we were all, it's very similar, but still. Ukraine is it's a very poor country. And the situation, it got most worse now with the war, with the war with Russia and all things like this, but political problems. So the result, the water is a big problem in Ukraine. So it's not like, for instance, in Slovakia, when you have almost every town and every village has the water supply somehow. If people don't have water, the water is brought. Okay? So it's not the case. Even in Zakarpattia, in the mountains where I live, we have situation where people don't have water. So all they have water is so polluted, it's so dirty. So we have to face this problem, so it's very serious. And I'm working there. And I'm telling my experience from very much Ukrainian context. And one thing, it is very good because we are forced to work in real situation without, subsidies. Because, Europe is different. You have European money here, European subsidies. So it's very much like a caution. In Ukraine, it's very much real. So no money and things has to be done. They have to be very practical. So in some ways, it gives the advantage of working in this situation. So we start from the rainwater. Because rainwater is a very It's where the water cycle starts. The water falls from the sky, and most of the water somehow anyway, even the groundwater was rainwater at some point. It's just percolated through the ground. So this is what we see in Ukraine, the rainwater cisterns, which are like this, and sometimes like this. And so what I call this approach, we should look in permaculture design. It's a very good idea to see first, when you come somewhere, and you see what already is the beginnings of the solutions. Because the solutions are already present. And we start from these solutions and develop them into better. So I'd like to show you we should see the case of the hostel I'm working now at, designing the complete water system. It's in, if you know, the Hust place. It's in Zakarpattia. It used to be part of actually Czechoslovakia in the 30s. So this Hust. So there's a hostel, and it's for 25 people. The full capacity of this hostel, and it's a student hostel. It was built to do many good things. So it's a great place actually, and it's a big pleasure for me to do this work there because it's really needed. So, but there is no water. So the well there is. There is a well. There is a well, and sometimes in winter there is water. Yeah, maybe enough for maybe 5-10 people a day, but in summer the water is disappearing. And this is a general situation in the wells in Ukraine. The water is disappearing in the wells. I don't know if it's the same in Slovakia.
It's happening already.
Happening? Okay, but in Ukraine it's just general. Everywhere everybody is complaining about no water in the wells. And this is the result of climate change, very much, and the result of deforestation. So, no water, not enough water. So we are running completely this system from the rainwater. And I'll show you the system, how it's, I don't know if you see the, maybe it has to be bigger somehow. But maybe I can write you down a little bit here. The good thing about, so anybody interested in rainwater collection here? Yeah. So rainwater collections, because it's everywhere in Australia. It's everywhere in Mallorca. I was living in Australia, and I've been to Mallorca. It's a completely run by rainwater. Okay. The 30% of Australia gets the water supply. Rural population in Australia gets the water from rain. So it's quite good. But it's different for cold climate. So cold climate, we are living in cold climate. The winter, zima, skoro zima. And this zima, it's a problem. So we have to think about this. This is a very important thing for when we're designing things for a cold climate. So we have to basically how the water gets frozen in winter. You know this, yeah? And this is the problem. So how we protect the water from the frost, the collected rainwater. So one way is to keep it below ground. Okay? So this is cisterna. And this is a very good thing, but it involves lots of earthworking. Excavator. Excavator is expensive. Sometimes there is no excavator, like in Ukraine, you know, no excavator. If you ask people to dig, you need too many people to dig it. So when you build your rainwater system, you have to choose between, basically you have two options. Either you have underground cistern or you have above ground. Above ground, okay? Pod землей, над землей. Розумієте, да? And this has to be insulated. Then, insulation. Insuляція, так? Insulation is also money and lots of, so you have to really, before you start your rainwater building system, you have to really assess what the situation with the earth, how much is earth working, because remember, for the good rainwater system, you need to collect a lot of water. We're not talking about 1 cubic meter. Not at all. It's nothing. You need 10 at least cubic meters, or better 20 cubic meters cisterna. Okay? Yeah? 20,000 liters. 10. So you have at least, this is at least something. If you were building a real rainwater supply system. So this thing costs money. And what I've done now in this system, the other thing about rainwater. The rainwater, do you think rainwater is clean?
Not really, somewhere.
It's pretty clean. Yeah, it's pretty clean. The problem is with the roof. Yeah? And with the gutters. So what is collected in the on the roof and in the gutters? That's a problem. And when water comes on the roof and gets on the surface, on the roof, on the gutters, it got polluted. And then when it got into your cistern, you have the process of bacteriological contamination. So it is better, so basically with this system, what I devised, we have two cisterns. One is primary, первичный, and this is where the water comes from the roof, and this is 20,000 liters, and I will probably show you now how it looks like. Okay, no, this is on the front. It's actually covered. This is the первичный underground reservoir, and there's the secondary reservoir for clean water. This is 7,000 cubic meters, 7 tons. Okay, so what we have the water coming first to the primer reservoir, and I'm using what is called it's called the primary filters. The primary filters, they look like this. This looks like this. It's actually another system which also very practical. You use your well as the first cistern, first collecting cistern. So you collect the water first in the well, and then you pump it to the bigger reservoir. We did it because it was difficult to collect the water in the big cistern because there was too much piping. But this is, you see how with the pointer here. Well, anyway, you see this blue barrel dug underground. It's called the primary filter. It's a rough filter for filtration water, and this is very good thing for you to use. It's a barrel, and it's filled with different sizes of aggregate. So, and there's a perforated pipe here, which goes to the cistern or well, your primary storage. So the rainwater gets in, and here you have gravel, 30 centimeters of gravel, gravy, strick, okay? This is This is the size, okay? Then you have, and then you have, so you need, this is very important to keep these sizes of strick, okay? So you have 20-30 centimeters of this size of grain, then this size of grain, and this size of grain. All like this. And then in the bottom you have again, it's like 20 millimeters. This is a drainage layer. Also 20 centimeters. And the perforated pipe. You know, perforate the pipe, you drill the holes in it, okay? So it brings the water. So this is the primary filter for the rainwater, and it works very well. And it gets to the well, and then water gets to the primary big reservoir. And then the water is run through the another thing, you know, slow sand filter. Oh, so maybe, but you will see this on the presentation where I live. This is something for you will be interesting to learn, the slow sand filter. This is very old technology. It's actually, I have it in the very end of presentation. Yeah, it's here. So this is basically are again some vessel filled with sand. And it has a small it's very small, very fine sand. And it has a small biological layer on the top, which is called in German, for some reason, Schmutzdecke. And the water from this primary reservoir gets through this filter and it gets to the secondary reservoir, this blue one that I showed you in the very beginning. So, this one. And from there we have the water supplies of the system, and this is insulated. It's covered with insulation, so it never freezes. So this is double system. We have primary reservoir for water, and what we do with the water from primary, we run the flush toilets from this primary reservoir. So it's very good that you have in your house the different quality of, because you don't need drinking water for flushing the toilet, obviously. But even for flushing the toilets, you can't run it with the dirty water. You agree with it? Because if you put the dirty water in your flush toilet, the tank gets stinky and you have problems, so you need somehow treat it. So, but it still doesn't have to be drinking quality. So so you have different quality of water in your system. The technical water, which is clean enough to run in the flush toilet, and the other thing, you can of course use it for irrigation in summer. And then you have drinking water, which came through the slow sand filter, which is drinking quality, and you can use it for everything. So this is, if you come to, I invite you to come to Zakarpattia actually, and this is not far. And you can come and see how this system works next year, for instance, because we constantly run their workshops. It's pretty interesting. And it also has many other things. So, the other thing about the water cycle, I'm very much about building the toilets. Because the toilets is something you do in the first hand to basically to stop the feces, the shit coming into water. The dry toilet, or the compost toilet they called. So, and I was building quite much of it, and I'm building public dry toilets. I must stress that I do not call them compost toilet, they are dry toilets, so we don't have the flush, okay? And actually, I'm not making, you know, kind of bringing the dry toilets as the solution for everything. Actually, dry toilets, they are evolutionarily, they are lower than they've been using, you know, 2,000 years ago, 100 centuries ago, there was all dry toilets, and they were developed quite good. In Germany, for instance, in the cities, there were all systems completely run in dry toilets. They were putting the sawdust, so it's nothing new. So the water toilets are actually much better, and I prefer myself water toilets because they are much more convenient, because you can run, direct the water, but it's much more work, much more problem, complicated with treating the wastewater, and much more money. So dry toilets is something that it's a first solution. So this is a toilet that I built in the mountains where the place is called Sinivir Pass. This is a Lake Sinivir. It's up in about 1,000 meters high elevation, and we built a public toilet there, which is it has a very nice view from the windows. It's a tourist spot, and I'm very much peculiar about the toilets because, you know, people spend about, you know, how long people spend in the toilets during their life? You know, average person, at least a year. So if you think about at least a year, yeah, about a year we spend in the toilet, the average person. So if you think about this time, you have to be, then you start to think about designing it properly. So, and this is something again, what my approach, I'm coming from the side. So I'm using this toilet, public toilets, in order to educate people, because, you know, we have people coming into the toilet, you've got 5 minutes of their time. 5 minutes of their time, yeah? And you can imply something on them, you know. You can make some ecological propaganda on them. So this is public toilets. It's a very good way to educate people. So, there is also, but this is very complicated toilet actually, an expensive toilet. Not on the bottom when actually a composting process happening, but on the top, because it's because, you know, most of the money goes onto upper structure. So actually, so that's basically what we talk about. So, but it can be done much simpler. For instance, this toilet that I developed, this is for a very simple installation, but it's also run as a dry toilet. It's called a crib design. And I would like to stop a little bit on the design. What is common to all of these, both for this first one and the second one that I shown you? You know, you heard about separation, separating toilets, okay? Yeah, and separation. So it's a very good concept, which doesn't work in the public toilets. Absolutely. Yeah, because if you have people coming to, you know, average random person coming to a public toilet, you can't explain them to, you know, to sit for, I mean, you never get, myself will not do that also. So separating toilets really don't work with the public toilets, and so I'm concentrated on developing the dry toilets which are not separating, which so the user who enters the toilet, he or she shouldn't, you know, really think about what, you know, change the attitude. They do what they do in the ordinary way. So the key thing for all this is ventilation and aeration. That's the thing for all of these toilets. So you need somehow to get the air into the composting chamber, and lots of air. Because the one thing for the toilets is, the most important thing for the toilets, it's not the ecological issue, it's the smell. Because if you have people coming and experiencing the smell, that's a failure. You're done, okay? That's finished. You want, the smell is the worst thing, so you need to somehow get rid of the smell. And the aeration is very important. So this toilet that I developed and built, several of them actually, I don't know, it's not very good to see what is on the bottom. But it's made very simple. It's called, kleć. Kleć, you do understand kleć? Or cage. Cage, yeah? Okay, you put one plank like this, two planks like this, and then two planks like this, okay? And then two planks like this, and you have this, okay? Do you understand this? Okay? So you have lots of holes, right? So this is very simple design for the toilets. How you get the content ventilated. So, but the only thing, if you build it from the wood, you need to treat the wood somehow. And the very good thing for treating the wood is actually, how long do I have?
In 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you have to be. Did you understand? So yogurt is called. It's a tar from the wood. It's a very good thing for treating the wood against rotting, and it's natural and it makes good smell. So maybe if someone is interested in all these questions, we can talk later. You can come to me and we can discuss it. So this is another cartridge toilet that I built right on the. This is right on the edge of the water, near. So how we build close to the water, because near the water everything becomes a problem. So this is a cartridge toilet. When you have a cartridge, compost cartridge, which is taken out from the toilet and put out for composting, and you put another one. That's another approach. Okay. So this is constructed wetlands. It's also building in terms, construct. This is called gruntowe filtry. How do you call it in? Proszę? Koreniowe cisticzki. Well, anyway, this is a filters which with the Shrek and you put the plant there as well. You put the plant. But actually plants are not most important there. The most important are bacteria. And so plants basically, they provide the media for bacteria. The problems, this is very good approach for cleaning the water and bringing the water back to the cycle. So you can use it for irrigation. But the problem with them, that they take lots of space. They take lots of space and they're not cheap really, because you need the membrane for somehow to protect, to seal the content of the. So, and but the most problem is space really, because they need quite much, especially in the cold climate. You need at least 4 square meters per person, which is quite much. So this is the approach and the idea which I'm developing lately, which is called, this is a biofilter which I call Magic Pot. And this is the biofilter which is compact, and it's very much about patterns. Patterns in permaculture are very important, yeah? It's all about patterns, starting from patterns basically. So that's another way how I bring the patterns into people's life, So, because pot is itself, it's a pattern. People recognize it, it's something very old archetype shape. So, but this is a wastewater treatment actually device. It's insulated. It's actually made of styrofoam and then covered with fibrous cement. So it gives a very good insulation. So inside it, even the very cold minus 20, there is always plus 10 at least. So it's because it's this thick, insulation. So because it's important to keep the temperature. So processes and it is. This is one that we just finished. We didn't paint it yet. This is treating for the for treating wastewater for this hostel. And the tree is completely to very high degree, and so after that it can be used for irrigation or for flushing the toilets at least, or discharging to the water bodies. And the thing about this, the biofilters, they're further enhances by adding worms. This approach called vermifiltration, vermifilters they called. So, you know, earthworms. Yeah? Yeah. So the earthworms are actually, they're great. They don't only do the compost, but they also can treat your wastewater. And basically they're doing the same thing as plants in the constructed wetlands. But here, in the closed sealed pot, you have the pots which grazed on the organic waste, and what is created there is a biofilm surrounding the substrate. You know, this pot is basically filled with charcoal. You know, charcoal. Charcoal is another thing which I really interested to work with, because charcoal is a local resource that we can produce locally, and you don't need much actually, you know, big firewood to produce a charcoal. You can work with the small sticks like that, right? What Indians call the squaw wood. Squaw wood. The wood which is narrower than this, you know. So charcoal is a very good substrate for that, and you can get it locally. And after that, it works for some time. Actually, I don't know for how long it will work, because it needs experiments. It's basically a new approach. So we are now, after that, you take the substrate and use it for growing, because it's absorbed nitrogen, phosphorus, all the things which are needed by plants, but not needed in water, of course. Yeah? So it's also some kind of cartridge system where you basically absorb the nutrients and then use it. I'm thinking about how actually do this to do this system with the cartridges, so we can actually take the upper part of it and take the cartridge with the charcoal. So anyway, so this is very much about patterns as well, and how to make things beautiful. And this is the challenge which here, because how we make the sanitation and wastewater objects, which are usually ugly. You know, this is concrete underground, smelly, or they brought somewhere away. I bring them into landscape and make them part of the landscape, and use for educating the people, and use them to the patterns that we expose people to. So without telling this to people actually. So this is very most important thing. Yeah. So this is basically guerrilla permaculture war. So we expose people to patterns without telling this. Okay. So I think basically I'm trying to make things beautiful. Yeah, it's an art. So art is very important. So I think we really need to make things beautiful. The gardens and everything should be beautiful. Everything should be beautiful. And this size is 2 meters diameter. This is quite big. But it can be smaller, like that. Depends on the load, on the wastewater loads. Yeah. And depends on how much money people have. Yeah.
Sorry for
Yeah.
that we need to finish, but
Yeah.
keď máte akékoľvek otázky, you will be here all day, so you can ask me.
Yeah. So these are something what I just want to summarize a little bit. Yeah. Oh, can I have just 2 minutes?
Of course.
Yeah, because this is something about water. Because, you know, I don't split the water into different things, you know, whereas this is all water. So I'm working with water, and this is permaculture. This is something about erosion and swales. You know the swales? Swales? Do you know the swales? What do you call them?
Swale.
On there, yeah? When you dig them, yeah?
Yes.
So Did anyone did this? Okay, so this is something that this is how they work. So this is the erosion, typically. I work in the monastery. Monastery, you know, monastery. So it's, I think it's still the best example of permaculture in Ukraine, because monastery, it's a hierarchy, you know, like it's like an army. Everybody does one thing what they said to do. So this is making the swales, and this is how they work. They stop. So one thing about making the swales, if you do the swales, never use the A-frame. You know A-frame, Arama. It doesn't work.
Why?
Because it's very inaccurate. So yeah, because so the water level, the pipe.
I did it with it.
Okay.
Because depends.
My experience says that for doing many of these things, so the water level is the best, and but you need 2 persons with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very slow when I did it with the water.
Yeah, but if you need to do a lot, and you usually need to do it a lot in my situation. Yeah. So, and the other thing is how you use the excavator. So how to use the tractor, the excavator. Yeah. Okay. So it's very important to get the excavator driver understanding properly what you need, and have the right angle of his hoe when he does it. So this is something before you do that, you have to really explain him about what you need to achieve. So, but basically, water is general thing, and we need basically the idea here is how we keep the water and try to stop it from flowing away. So these all, and if we use it, we keep it clean. And what I like very much about this approach of swales, it's again, it makes things beautiful, because in the very end we have a very nice pattern on the landscape. So if you have any questions about, we can talk about it maybe later. Thank you very much for your attention.